I was stuck on an island by myself as the commissioner of the OPP with my conscience and to do the right thing.
Good evening. A multi-million-dollar lawsuit has been launched against Premier Doug Ford amidst fiery allegations coming from the ousted interim OPP commissioner, Brad Blair. He's breaking his silence today, speaking out for the first time, calling for a public inquiry into what he says is an abuse of power.
My firing without any due process or opportunity to defend myself came as a shock to us. The impact of the firing has, quite frankly, traumatized me, my wife, and my family.
Brad Blair and his lawyer say today's announcement is only the tip of the iceberg. The ex-OPP officer is speaking out for the first time since being fired back in March when he was serving as interim OPP commissioner by the same man he says he filed a complaint against.
For reasons that are still not clear to me. A firing that was unlawful and done without any due process.
He raised questions around the circumstances surrounding the province appointing Toronto Police Superintendent Ron Taverner as OPP commissioner late last year, a position Blair was also after.
Process was fraudulent, and I never had a chance of winning.
Taverner later turned down the job following criticism. The allegation is that there was political interference in his appointment. He is a longtime friend of the Ford family. But an investigation by Ontario's Integrity Commissioner cleared the Premier. Ford, in return, suggested Blair violated the Ontario Police Services Act. Julian Faulkner calls the report, quote, a failure of Ontario's legislative watchdogs.
Not one public official, other than being named in the report, has suffered any consequences as a result of the damning observations in the report.
The 32-year OPP veteran is now spearheading a $15 million lawsuit, naming the Premier and other top-level bureaucrats.
Wrongful termination, abuse of public office, breaches of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Blair believes his employment was terminated to silence him, and his lawyer agrees, also pointing the finger at the Premier for hiring what he calls suspect appointments based on personal relationships, an abuse of power.
The statement of claim that was filed today is the only way Brad Blair can push for accountability.
They're calling for a public inquiry, one that is independent from the Premier and anyone who works with him.
Premier Ford is on the case. He is going to faithfully investigate Premier Ford.
Brad Blair says he'd like to one day wear the police uniform again, but he does have one regret, accepting the interim commissioner position.
Had I not, I most likely would have brought the evidence that I had that was brought to me as a deputy commissioner. I'd have taken it to the interim commissioner at the time and said, here's what I have. You're the commissioner. This is your issue. But I was the commissioner.
We reached out to both the Office of the Premier and the Integrity Commissioner to ask or get a comment regarding today's allegations. Both declined to give a comment.